These are in listen-only mode.
Good morning and welcome to this morning's Wind Shuttle education session. I'm Jennifer Huang and I will be talking today about new functionality within our Query 10.2 product. It's just about to come out for general availability. And what you're able to do in this newer version is record queries by recording the transaction code. So right now everyone is in listen-only mode, so if you have any questions, please save them for the end of the presentation where we'll have a Q&A session. So again, this is a new feature only available with the 10.2 product, which requires you to use the 10.2 function module being installed on your SAP system or systems. And what you'll see when you select New to create a new query is that you have a new option down here called Create Query using SAP Recording. And that's pretty much just as it sounds. You would actually create your query by performing your SAP transaction code and making changes to those fields that you want to query upon. So if we look at the query product and how to create those queries in 10.2, in addition to being able to use the old way of creating the query, you're now able to create queries by just knowing your transaction code and knowing which fields you want to capture and knowing where those fields are in the transaction. So basically, if you know the transaction code and know where the information you want to query on lives, then you're able to create a query. Whereas before the 10.2 release, you had to know or be able to find the names of the specific tables, as well as know the specific fields. And of course, you could search on those fields, but sometimes, there are situations where you wouldn't be able to find the information that you need. So now with this 10.2 release, you can create a query using transaction code recordings so that even for someone who's not familiar with the table names and field names, as long as they know the transaction code, they can create their queries. And so even if they're not as technical, the end user can still create it on their own. So the process itself, for those of you that are familiar with our transaction product, it's very similar to recording a transaction code using our transaction product. You would select the SAP system and log onto it using your SAP authorizations. And again, there's a little warning here that says changes made during the recording will be committed to SAP. So, this isn't a simulation of any kind. When you record your query, it is going to be making whatever changes you make. And you want to use a change transaction and make changes to those fields that you want to pick. So you are making changes, so you want to be able to show, you want to be using a SAP system where it's okay for you to be making those types of changes. So you type in your transaction code, and then again, you perform the transaction as you normally would, editing those fields that you want to query upon. And then when done, you would just save it. And again, those saves will be committed to SAP. Once you finish the recording, it will take you to the query builder, and there's a new folder called Recorded Transaction Codes, and that's where any of the transaction codes that you've done in a recording way will show up, and they'll have the transaction code name, and then all of the tables that are associated with it will show below that. And then you can go ahead and perform the query building and building your where clause as you normally would, even the old way. There are some limitations, of course. So whoever's doing the recording needs to have authorizations within SAP to perform and that SAP transaction code. So if I can't create, or change a material in SAP, then I can't record that either. Also, and this is no change from the previous releases of query, fields that are in structures, fields that are stored in structures and not tables are not available for query. So you will get a pop-up screen that tells you that. So it won't be a surprise or anything. Okay, so now I'm just going to go ahead and do a simple demo for you. So I'm going to open up the query product. And again, everything's the same on the main screen. When I hit New to create a new query, this is the new option for Create Query using SAP Recording. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And I have to log on to the system where I can do that. And my system's already here, W47, so I'm going to put in my SAP credentials. And again, this is only for 10.2, so on that SAP system you will have to have the new 10.2 function module installed. And you get a little property screen that pops up, and here's where you would actually type the transaction code. So I type in the transaction code and a description. Again, here's some additional metadata about this query. If you want to jot it down, you can go ahead. And again, the little warning that tells you that, whatever changes I'm making during the recording, it is happening within the SAP system. So I will hit OK. Okay, there was a bit of a delay there, but here is the session of SAP that is opened, and this is the MM02 transaction. And like I said before, you're just going to go ahead and perform the transaction, changing the fields that you want to query. So I go ahead and put in my material number, and I'm just going to go pick basic data 1 and get into the material, and I'll go ahead and change the fields that I want to query on. So I picked the description, gross weight, net weight, weight unit. I'm going to jump to MRP1, put in my plant number, put in my MRP controller. That's the last thing I want to query on, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And now this is making the changes in SAP, and it's going to finish up recording the query and then bring me back to the query builder screen. So it's now, you can see here in the recorded transaction codes section that it is adding those tables. And this is going a bit slow because of the webinar. Okay, so here in the table listings, again, this is the new section called Recorded Transaction Codes, and any recordings that you do via transaction code will show up here. So this is the MMO2 webinar one that I just did, and this is the list of the tables that were associated with the changes that I made. So I can go ahead and add these tables to my query builder area right here. And whatever fields that I edited during the recording will be auto-selected for you. So in MAKT, my material description is already picked for me. And down here, it is also auto-selected for output. So it will be included in the output of the query itself. So if I bring Mara over, again, the fields gross weight, net weight, weight unit, and material number from table Mara are auto-selected for me because those are the ones I changed during the recording process. And the join is also automatically made for me. I'll bring Mark over, and again, plant and MRP controller, the other fields, are also there as well. Now there are a few other tables, and if I bring it over, it has to do with checkboxes and such, which really aren't, things I'm interested in querying on. It's just part of the recording process, so I don't even have to include those in my query. So really, for this particular one, I only need these three, and again, all of the joins have been made for you. And these are all the fields that I had changed during the recording, so these are all the fields that are already pre-selected for me and included as the output. And now that these are here, I can go ahead and build my where clause as normal. So I can say, okay, what I want to do is pick based on, plant, and let's say I want to, put this as a fixed value of 1,000. Again, you can make this whatever you want. You can make it a runtime variable. You can include a constant value or a range of values using text file or Excel. This part has not changed. And then you would go ahead and save your query, continue with the mapping process, and then finish with the run itself. So really, the difference here is that these tables are selected for you, and then when you double-click on them or drag them over into the Query Builder area, those fields that you were edited during the recording process are auto-selected for you. And then the rest of the process is the same. So the one limitation that I had mentioned was regarding the structures and how you would be warned. So I'm going to show that to you. So I'm just going to start another one. So I'm doing an XK02. So this is going to take a little bit of time again because of the webinar. Okay, so I'll go ahead and put in my vendor, company code, purchase order information. And, make a few changes. And this is going to take a little bit of time too. So you can see here, you get a little pop-up saying rejected fields, saying that, these fields live in a structure, so they're not going to be included in your query. It's not a hard stop or anything. You can continue. It's just that any fields that are included here that are part of a structure, they'll just be ignored and won't be included in the query. So if I hit OK, again, it adds XK02 to the recorded transaction codes area and the tables that were associated with it. But any of the fields that were in the structures are not going to be included. So then you can continue here as normal. Okay, so that is the presentation for today. Now I'll go ahead and open up for questions. And I'm going to go ahead and unmute. Whoa, that's too loud. We did get a question online, so I'm going to answer that first. And the question was, is there a way to print the query builder view? There's no built-in printing functionality that I'm aware of, so you would just have to, do some kind of print screen for that. If you have a question, could you use the raise hand function, and then I'll go ahead and unmute you. Okay, well, it looks like there aren't any more questions, so thank you for joining us today, and join us again, as these will be weekly for another education session. Thank you.